Hey, welcome back, guys. Monday morning briefing, episode number 27. It's Monday, March the 29th. We had a pretty eventful weekend. We had opening ceremonies for T-ball and stuff for the kids on Saturday, so we spent most of the day doing that. I did work some Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning, and then we went down there and did that, and then I came back in for just a couple of hours and then went home and got some grass mowed and stuff. Thankfully, we didn't even know there was any rain in the forecast, but we ended up getting rain Sunday morning, so glad I got that knocked out Saturday afternoon. But then we were able to work on some projects at the house all day yesterday, and so had some family come in for this week right before Easter and stuff, and so they came in late yesterday afternoon, and we ended up barbecuing. If you follow me on Instagram, I was able to fire up the smoker this weekend and smoke some beef ribs, and so that was a lot of fun. So my friend Kenneth Horton with High Tech Redneck gave me some tips on cooking beef ribs, and I tried it, and it turned out pretty good. I'm not gonna say they're perfect, but they turned out pretty good. So I've got a little bit of tweaking there to get those kind of ironed out, but they turned out really good, and it was a lot of fun. So we just enjoyed our afternoon yesterday. We're back in the shop today. It looks like we got just a ton of stuff done last week, but really you got to remember the rope bag, the couple saddles that I'm going to show you, all those. That's been 3-4 weeks worth of work, maybe longer. And that's just kind of how those projects go. They kind of seem like they're not moving very fast, and then all of a sudden you're tying everything out. We like to call that day when we're like this one saddle over here we're about to finish. We got one done last week, and the other one I will probably wrap up today, at least pretty well wrapped up. We call that day tie out day or picture day, either way, but it's basically the day we put the conchos on, we put all the stuff together, all the parts come together. You got to remember on a saddle especially, a lot of these parts are built independently after they're fit and stuff, and then you kind of bring everything together and tie those out. So I'll show you some of that. As far as the rope bag, last week I showed you the bag itself was pretty well done. The only thing I did was go through and just add some more edge dye along these edges and kind of clean that up. But we were able to get the straps done. And so my straps that I do on my rope bags are 1 inch wide. Because I have 2 straps, I don't want to make them too wide. It just seems like they're real cumbersome. And then I was able to make a little hanger here for the buckle, and so we've got just a little 1 inch cart buckle there, and that's going to allow you to disconnect these straps and hang it on a fence if there's not a real post or something that you can hook the straps on. So that's going to work out nice. But the straps are pretty simple. They just rivet on. I just rivet those on. I do kind of cut the back piece, as you'll see when we get the video done. I kind of scallop that a little bit or give it kind of a decorative cut. But the bag's done. It'll be shipped today, and we'll start editing the video. I have folders of footage from this project. Some I may have missed some stuff. We'll make a complete video out of it, and you'll get the basic gist of how that rope bag comes together. Like I said, there'll be a full video, no pattern pack yet until we get the printer situation figured out where we can print those off and mail those to you, because it's a big project. It's just a big bag, so there's no way you're going to be able to print that off. If you're a graphics designer or really good with Illustrator, you can probably tell me how to do that, but we're not going to offer a digital version of that pack. As I understand it now, we're going to do something that's more of a physical deal. I don't know when that'll happen, but we will let you know when that does happen. One thing I did this weekend was I played around with our money clip wallet. I just wanted to try some of the colored thread that I got from Aaron at Maker's Leather Supply, and I really like it so far. We got a few colors. You might be able to see those behind me. We got a few different colors to play with, and this one here I did black two-tone and then sewed it with a gold. I think it's gold color thread, and I think it turned out really cool. I've never really used colored threads much, and so it's just kind of experimenting and playing with that. Now also too, I want to make a note on our wallet. We have this as a material pack on our website for the money clip wallet video that we did, and so we can definitely sell all the pieces that you need to build one of these money clip wallets. They're on the website. You can order those. I've kind of been adjusting the weights that I use on certain projects, so I'm going to give you the weight in those packs when you order them. I just kind of do it as I'm cutting to feel if it's going to make a good wallet or not. And I know in the pattern pack, if you've purchased that, there's a digital pattern pack for that as well. It says in there to use for the body of the wallet, use 5/6, and then the interiors we're using 3/4 weight ounces. Over the years, I have used both 5/6 and 3/4 for the outside or the back of the wallet, the outside of the wallet. And with that, sometimes the 3.4 it feels too thin. Sometimes with the 5.6 it feels too heavy. So I'm actually trying to hit somewhere in the middle there. But you might want to give that a shot. If you've been making that wallet and thinking that it's just a little bit heavy for your preference, it may be fine. You might like them a little bit heavier. The customer might prefer them a little heavier. But if you think to yourself, man, it's just kind of bulky, try doing it all out of 3.4 and see what you think. When I cut those wallet material packs, I'm going to be cutting them on whatever weight I feel that's going to make the wallet feel proper. And so they may vary a little bit. So if you get one of those packs and it feels a little thin, like I said, put the poster board back there or use blue tape, tool it, put it together. I think you'll be surprised. I think a lot of times with wallets, I think Odin had mentioned it in our podcast interview when we had interviewed Odin way back when, at the beginning of the podcast, and he had mentioned that most of the time on wallets, you need way lighter leather than you really think. And I'm kind of finding that out the further we're getting into small items like wallets and things. It's kind of like our checkbook cover. When we did these, I love the way this looks. I love the way it feels, but it is a little heavy. I want my pen. But it is just a little bit heavy, but that's not, a lot of customers like it like that because they know that it's going to last. Sometimes customers think leather goods are sold by the pound, so they want it heavier than what it really needs to be. But I'm going to probably try on this as well to try to make a checkbook cover completely out of 3/4 ounce instead of using the 5/6 on the outside. So that's just one of the things when you're working with leather, and different pieces of leather are going to feel different. If you pick some up, one piece of 5/6 and another piece of 5/6, they actually may feel heavier. One may feel heavier than the other one, even though they'll measure the same thickness. So a lot of that when it comes to leather is just about feel and kind of what you want the final product to feel like. So, but my point being is when you're building the money clip wallet, especially, I'm going to send you the weight that I think will make good wallet. But if you're cutting them out yourself, you may give that 3/4 a shot and just make a whole wallet out of all of that and see kind of how it feels when you're done. I think you'll be pleased. This one's all out of 3/4, and I think it turned out just about perfect. Like if I can make them all exactly this thickness, that would be great. We have a splitter now. We've got a new blade coming. We actually wore out and dulled up that one blade, splitting down a lot of the Herman oak. I think the Herman oak's a little hard on that blade on that machine, and so we've got a resharp blade coming. We're going to give that a shot, and hopefully it'll work out. And like I said, it's splitting great. It's just when I put that Herman oak in there, Herman oak's pretty dense. I mean, it's a good quality leather, and so it may be a little hard on that blade as much as we're splitting, as much as we're trying to cut material packs out for you guys and stuff like that. So we'll keep you updated on that. As far as the other stuff, we're working on all kinds of projects. I've got a bunch of belts that we need to get back on. We've got a bunch of them cut. We're going to do some tooling on that this week. We're going to wrap up this one saddle I'm going to show you in a minute, and then we're going to get back going on our other projects. I've also got 2 more saddles that we're going to bring into the mix now and get those started. So we did a lot of sorting at the end of last week and kind of looking at our list and kind of seeing where we are as new saddle orders are coming in, which we've taken a few over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We want to kind of see, because we're about 4 saddles off of where we want to be between the move and the freeze. And the freeze really I was already behind before the freeze, but it's just kind of one of them things. 1 week kind of put us even further off kind of where I wanted to be. But I'm about 4 saddles off of where I want to be right now. And so once we get these 2 out of here, get these next 2 started, I may try to work in where we do 4 at a time. I don't like doing that, even in this shop, even though I have more space now, because you get a lot of parts, a lot of material dedicated to 4 saddles. And so that leaves you a little bit less wiggle room if, especially if you're cutting all 4 of those saddles out at one time. You need storage for those parts. You've got to keep those parts all kind of separated so you know where they're going. It's a lot more to handle when you build 4 at one time. My sweet spot is 2. I like to do 2 at one time and not much over that. But I think sometimes when you get behind or you're off of your schedule from where you want to be, you've got to do what you got to do. So we've definitely built 4 saddles at a time. It takes me longer. You got to remember when you get those projects going, if you try to keep them all in the same line, you've got a longer distance from the time you start to the time you end versus 2, obviously. It's not quite double, but it is longer because you've got just more stuff to do. I mean, you've got a lot more edges to slick, a lot more things to sew up, just a lot more parts. So I don't know if we'll do that or not, but we got to do something because we got to get a little bit caught up. It's kind of my own self-proclaimed schedule. It's not like, some of them, yeah, we are late on, but we don't take a deposit on custom saddles. So we get to them when we can. If we run late, we apologize, but there's not a whole lot we can do about that between everything else that we're doing. So, but lots of belts, lots of stuff. I'm going to start that Pony Express bag probably today and try to get the pattern made for that. Claudia wants to get her tote bag going, and so that's going to be a good project for her to start learning some more about Leathercraft and trying to get her feet wet, so to speak, and get used to sewing and prepping and pattern making and that kind of thing. So that'll be a good project for both of us to be working on at the same time. And then as far as her tote bag, the yoke tote, I have not made any progress on that, but I'm hoping now that I've got some saddles moved out, I can kind of get back on that and get those end gussets going, and so we can get that bag wrapped up. I'm excited to get that going. Also the deer, we got those pieces cut for that, and we should be starting to tool that hopefully here pretty quick. Just a lot going on. There's a lot of side projects I'm doing that don't pay any money really, because they're for Claudia or they're for us, or just a project I want to do. And then we've got a lot of projects that are customer projects that we have that take priority obviously in the shop. It's just it's hard to juggle all that kind of stuff, but you just do your best and keep moving forward on it, and just keep trying to keep everything moving every week. That's what I like about the Monday briefing videos, because it kind of keeps my mind focused on where I'm at, what I told y'all about last week, where we're going, and not letting stuff kind of fall to the wayside, because it's easy for me to bounce from one project to another and without looking back and not knowing exactly how much time has spanned between when I started something to when I finished something. So kind of go from there. I may also build another rope bag, not right now, but maybe this summer I might build one just to hang out on the sales floor, because they're real eye-catchy, because they're big and they're, there's a lot of tooling on them and stuff like that. So we might build another one and put it out there, and it'll be for sale, but it probably will never sell. If somebody's going to spend that kind of money, $3,500 on a bag, they're going to probably order one they want and not right off the shelf. But you never know. I've had it happen. But let me grab some coffee and I'll show you all the saddles and the progress we made last week on those. Alright, so we got the ranch saddle done last week. As you saw last week, it was pretty close. We were working on the taps. I'm really happy with how these taps turned out. It turned out good. I ended up not using the original bolt that came with the Nettles Dukes. When you buy a pair of their Dukes, which I call their working stirrup, they're just kind of a good quality using stirrup. They have the really nice bolt with the acorn nuts on the end like I showed you last week. I ended up going back with just a normal stirrup carriage bolt through there, and then we cut it off and sanded it down and then peened that nut in place. I did that because sometimes with that all thread you've got to cut it just right so that when you screw those acorn nuts down, they bottom out. Like they only tighten so tight, and if you cut it a little bit too long, it takes a little bit of finagle in there when you're putting it on with taps. So I went ahead and just went with the carriage bolt. I could leave it long, screw my nut on the end, and then cut off what I don't need, and then peen it down. So I went ahead and just went with that. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with them. I don't do a lot of taps or toe fenders on our saddles, and so I don't know. I'm happy with this pattern. I think it could use a little adjustment, but all in all, I think it worked out good. This is more of a kind of just like a South Texas rig. A lot of guys down this way and further south of us, they all ride with toe fenders or taps, and that way it keeps the brush out of the stirrup and that kind of thing. And so we've got a pull-in collar for this saddle that's over there getting old. It's pretty well done, and it's the one that attaches to the swell there. A lot of guys like those down here. And then the flank gird as well. Everything is done. This saddle will be on the sales floor this morning, and the gentleman that we built it for will be picking that up soon. And I think he's excited to get it, and excited to get it kind of into his string and get it working, and it's ready to go. One thing that I do often is I'll check these. When I put my skirts on the very first time, I pin them with 4 nails. So I'll put 2 up here in the gullet and then 1 under each bar in the back. And when a saddle is done, as long as it's in my shop 4 or 5 times before it gets picked up, I will end up checking those bars and making sure I didn't leave a nail under there. I don't know how you put your skirts in, but when I would put mine in, anytime those skirts go back on, those nails they're lineup nails, so they're going to ensure that these skirts go back on in the exact same spot every single time. And so what I'll usually do is when that saddle goes to leave, right before it walks out the door or I put it in a box, is I will run my hand underneath there in that skirt and make sure I didn't leave a nail in there, because that would be embarrassing in the least, and in the most it could actually, you know, cause some fitting issues or cause some problems. So want to be sure we don't leave any nails under there. I would suggest that if you're going to use lineup nails, which all of us do on your skirts, is kind of keep it to a number you know how many you're putting under there, and that way every time when you put your fenders and stirrup leathers in, that's when you pull those nails. And you know, you don't put 5 in on one and 6 in on one and 7 or 4 or whatever. Keep it to the same number, that way you know how many nails are under there, and you're sure to always remove those before you ship the saddle. But ranch saddle, it's done, it's ready to go. And so we'll get that out of here and get another tree on this rack. And the roping saddle is pretty close. We're fixing to be wrapped up with her probably today. And we got the seat glued in, we got the binder tooled and sewn on this weekend. Housings have been put back in place. Everything's final where it's going to be. So now we'll glue the front of the seat down. We'll screw in our swell screw, put on our rig catchers, everything, slip the fenders in. And this saddle will be pretty close to being completely done probably today, maybe tomorrow, but everything else is ready to go. I do have to put treads in the stirrups and antique those, but other than that, all the little stuff is done, has been oiled, antiqued. And so I ended up, when you're putting these housings on, once the seat's in, when you're screwing those back in place, a lot of times the seat will bend up and that your corner of your seat will kind of stand up a little bit. So what I like to do, I did it first thing when I got here early this morning, was I'll wet the back side of the seat corners and then kind of tuck them, put them back in place, pin everything down, and I'll put my drawdown strap across there, and that'll kind of keep that seat, the back corners of that seat down, and we'll just let it sit till I come to work on it here in a little bit, and that'll just make sure that that seat lays down nice. The bad deal is this saddle's going to Arizona, so no matter what I do, as much as I fiddle and tweak on it and try to keep everything straight and everything the way I want it and get the fenders turned and all that stuff, we're going to cram it into a box and ship it. And so I really hate doing that, but we're glad that we're going to have one of our saddles out in Arizona, so we're really excited about that. But I just hate putting a saddle in a box, because when the man pulls it out, the stuff's probably going to be, you know, it's just going to ride in a box for a couple of days, and you know, fenders get kind of wadded up in there and stuff. We try to pack them best we can, but it's just nature of the beast. But he'll get to using it. This man rides quite a bit, really enjoys his horses and everything, so he'll definitely put this saddle to use, and it'll break in really nicely. But it's about ready to go. All right, we've got our second set of trees pulled up here, and this first tree right here is going to be a ranch saddle. It's the exact same tree that's in this ranch saddle over here, and it's a Ray Lewis tree. So I get majority of my trees come from Ray, and those are the trees I really enjoy building on. They're probably my favorite tree as of right now. Next to the Billy Hog tree, that's what this tree is, and it's going to be a roper, just a standard roper. I'm not sure what we're doing artwork wise, if we're going to tool it or do any padded seat or anything like that, but this will be just a roper. So those are the next two saddles that we're fixing to start. I'm going to try to keep it on these two. I might get these two started and get about a third of the way through and then pull a couple more up. Like I say, we're all going to try to make up a little bit of progress, try to get caught up a little bit as far as the saddle list goes. But for right now, we're definitely going to start these two. We've got a pile of trees we can go through and pull a couple more orders up to the bench and try to get going. But that's really all I got for you guys this week. It's going to be a little bit short. I got to get back to work, get some stuff shipped. We got to ship that rope bag and get this saddle tied out so we can get it shipped and on its way to Arizona. I appreciate you guys. Last week, if you were looking for the Lost Trade episode on the podcast, we were dark last week, so we didn't have an episode. We should have one this week. If everything goes well, we can get all our ducks in a row. We did have an interview last week, and it was a pretty interesting guy. Really enjoyed visiting with him and talking to him, and we got to talk about a lot of tools and things like that, so it was really neat. So that episode should be out Thursday or Friday, somewhere there, and we've got a bunch more interviews lined up, and so we'll get those going. I appreciate y'all. Be sure and sign up for the Leathercraft newsletter if you haven't already on our website at dgsaddlery.com. We are going to try to have a newsletter in April, so I'm working on that now, so we'll try to get that out to you guys. We've got some updates we want to give you all and stuff, and so be sure and sign up for that. If you haven't seen one, the last one we did was probably October or November, so not a big deal. We don't send one out all the time, but you're going to want to be a part of that. So if you want to and you want to get our emails, then you can go ahead and sign up for that at our website. Otherwise, we'll see you next week in the Monday morning briefing. Thank y'all.